So, good evening, family. I hope everyone is doing well. My name is Dedra Lane. I show up as in the title of Chief Operating Officer for Park Heights Renaissance. I navigate in the role of partner. I want to welcome each and every one of you from your home, from your living rooms, from your dining areas, your offices, or wherever you might be joining us this evening. I want to welcome you to this space that we get to create every month, a space that brings us together to share our collective wisdom and exchange information that supports our collective growth and development. This is a space for sharing. This is a space for breathing. This is a space where we can get comfortable, open our hearts and our minds to receive. We are delighted that you are here with us today, and we look forward to reviewing with you a rather robust agenda. We're going to do our best to be efficient with our time and provide you access to all of the information that has been coordinated for you tonight. So I'm inviting you once again to clear your minds, to open your hearts, to receive all that Park Heights has to offer us in these 2 hours. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our legislators and city officials who may have joined us this evening. If you are here, please state your name. Having given enough time for folks to unmute themselves and state their presence, we're going to move along with the agenda. And as we move through the agenda, we have our presenters prepared to share, and each of them have been allotted 10 minutes to present and 5 minutes for questions and answers. First up, we will showcase one of our Park Heights hidden gems. I'd like to present to you and to some of you introduce through the voice of Miss Catherine Cooper Nicholas. She will share with us the work of Sisters Saving the City. Miss Catherine, we're ready.
Good evening, everyone. And I want to thank Park Heights Renaissance for inviting me to share with you what Sisters Saving the City is trying to do in the Park Heights community. I founded Sisters Saving the City in 2007, and this was after my son had been stabbed 17 times while waiting for a bus. And we followed up with, he did survive, but unfortunately he was murdered. And this time he was beat to death by a mentally ill man. We moved to Baltimore from Pennsylvania, rural Pennsylvania. He had no frame of reference for living in an urban area, so he became a victim. But I was ready to run away, and God told me to stay in Baltimore and to work with our communities. And so in starting Sisters Saving the City, I traveled throughout the city of Baltimore, and I went to schools, rec centers, community organizations, and I'm asking them, what can we do for our young people in this city to stop the violence? And I got all kinds of input in what we could do. So I'm saying we're going back to 2010, and that's when I was in Bible study, and I was sharing with the Bible study class what I was trying to do going throughout the city. And one of our members, Professor Bridges from Morgan University, at that time, well, back then, he's retired since, he said to me, look, can I present this to my graduating class and have them go out and create a plan for a youth village? And thank you for putting it up on the screen. So this was the first rendition. It's multiple pages that goes along with this plan. But you can see spring of 2010. And so here we are in 2021, no groundbreakings, nothing. It's still on paper, but I will say that Park Heights Renaissance has an updated plan that again was done by Morgan State University. And as I went through the city, everywhere I went, there were people willing to share on we should be doing more for our youth. We should be doing more in our communities. I don't know how we can reach or how we can, I should say, encourage more commitment from this city, and that's everybody in this city, more commitment from the city to make a safe place for our young people and our families to live. So I wanted to share that with you. And I know that, again, with Morgan doing the update and Park Heights Renaissance actually making that happen, there still is a urgency. There's still a commitment for us to have such a facility in Park Heights, in our city. But we have to come together on how that can happen. Now, I'm not sure the format. I don't know if we get questions or anything at this part, but if not, then we can move on to something else I'm really excited about.
Thank you, Ms. Kath.
We can't hear you too good.
Good evening. I have a quick question. Can you hear me?
Much better now.
Okay. I had a question in terms of, thank you for the overview. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing now for the community to understand how we can support the programming that you're putting together now?
Okay, so now we have Sisters Saving the City Youth Center at 4236 Pimlico Road. And at that center, we have numerous programs. And we had, before the pandemic, we had 120 young people coming there, not all at the same time, but that's how much of a demand we had for space for young people. But when COVID came, because of the interaction of the youth in the center, we had to go virtual on some of those programs. So we're trying to do what we're supposed to do, what the city tells us to do. But I'm still glad that we are able to reach out with the youth. And I see, thank you very much, something that we want to do in our community. And we want to have a community-based development training practices program. Now, originally that when we put this together, it was to have it at our center. But again, because of COVID, we can't do that. And we are now looking to have it virtually. I was advised by the facilitators for this that we will be able to have up to 100 participants by it being virtual. And we reached out to Park Heights Renaissance. We submitted an application for funding for this project. And we did receive almost 100%, but we still have to raise some more money for this project. And as I said, 100 people. We will be recruiting through our neighborhood associations and others to make sure that everyone who wants to, but we can't go over the 100 because it would just be too much trying to get everyone trained and do it effectively. So, you know, this is exciting for us. And I'm not just saying for Sisters Saving the City, because we're like a hub. And we have residents coming into us with all kinds of, why can't we have this? Why can't we do this? Why can't we get this support? So the community definitely would like to see things better. They are excited about the training. We have churches that are want to be a part of this. We even have a segment for the young people to get training. So this is something that is very, very, very needed, not just in Park Heights, but throughout our whole city. And I would say, I meant to start off with this, but community economic development that's my background. That's what I came from. Before coming to Baltimore, I was the Deputy Director of Urban Ministries for the United Methodist Church. And I also worked for the Chester, Pennsylvania Redevelopment Authority. I was also the deputy there too. So this has been my passion. My degree from UMBC is in community development. So going back to when I was a 10-year-old organizer for the, what was that program? The Afro-American had this clean block program back when I was a little girl. And I begged my father to take me over there because I wanted to sign up to be a captain. And I got there and they said, well, honey, no, you are way too young. You can't do that. And I kept calling them. And then finally they said to me, well, look, if you can find an adult to be the captain, you can be the co-captain. So that's when I got my first taste of community organizing. And I tell you, you know, those kids that were my age who out there scrubbing them marble steps, sweeping those curbs, and watching grown-ups wash the windows. So it's something I know it's uplifting when we can do great things in our community. It's a way to show our children that it's important for them to commit, to take ownership of where they live in a positive way. So if you know there's time for any questions, or I'll tell you whatever I can. But again, I want to thank PHR for the support, not just financial. I mean, anybody that I call up there and I have a question, I'm getting answers, and I'm really excited about that. So I go and tell other people to do the same thing. And
Thank
then they
you.
come back and tell me, okay, Deidre, you know I can talk, so I'm going to shut up now. Okay.
Thank you for that broad brush overview, Ms. Catherine. There is one question posed in the chat, and it is really around What will the training be on, and who is the target audience?
Okay, well, I had submitted the target audience of our residents in Park Heights, but I asked if you can look on your screen now, it can tell you what the focus will be on.
And perhaps that may be challenging for many folks, given the size of the screens that folks may be looking at. How are individuals able to learn more about this work? Is there a contact number or access to you?
Okay, the best way to do it is to email me, and it's at KACE1051@verizon.net. That's the best way to do it, to email me. And if you live in the Park Heights community, then we can send you out a booklet, and you'll see what is going to be, what you will learn in the training. We have not designated a date yet because, you know, we're still trying to see how, well, even though we want to do it virtually, we still have to see, you know, how many people are interested in looking at the schedule of the trainers, because they are, you know, they go different places across the country.
Thank you again, Ms. Catherine. I want everyone to know that your email address is available in the chat, and we are encouraging direct correspondence with you for additional information. Thank you so much. We're going to move forward now with our agenda, as we have a pretty robust one, and we want to get through as much of it as possible. Next, we're going to move to our guest speaker portion of the agenda. And this is where we get to share with you partnership conversations that PHR has engaged in towards addressing concerns in the Park Heights community. The first speakers that I'm going to introduce to you are our M&T partners. We will be hearing from both Sharice Davis, who functions in the role of Regional Community Reinvestment Officer, and Tim Lewis, Assistant Vice President of M&T Bank. Thank you both for being here.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Mr. Detra, for having us in the Park Heights community. I again am Sharice Davis, and I am the Vice President and Community Reinvestment Officer at M&T Bank. I've been with the bank for a little over 32 years, and in my role, I'm responsible for building long-term strategic relationships with nonprofits, community-based organizations, and small businesses. I pretty much serve as the liaison between the bank and the community, ensuring that the financial needs of low and moderate income communities and people are fulfilled. I'm a native Baltimorean, grew up in Park Heights, so I know everything about Park Heights and the great needs there. I went to Arlington Elementary, Pimlico Middle, and Northwestern. Graduated from Northwestern High School and graduated from Villa Julie College. So I'm happy to be here tonight to talk about the partnership between Park Heights Renaissance and M&T.
Thank you, Sharice.
You're welcome. Tim, did you want to introduce yourself?
Very briefly, sorry I would be on video, but my internet connection decided to get very shaky once Ms. Cooper Nichols concluded. So greetings, everyone. I'm Tim Lewis. I'm also with M&T. I am a commercial real estate relationship manager in our commercial bank, which essentially allows me to manage relationship with developers, underwrite loans, help get projects built. And one of the things that I was happy to share with Dedra and Yolanda and the Park Heights Renaissance team was that I have an active role in underwriting construction for affordable apartments. That's a big part of what I've been doing over the last 12 to 24 months. And I was happy to learn just in building the relationship with the Park Heights team that M&T was able to contribute some equity to help get the Renaissance Row 84 unit building built, which will also be the future headquarters of Park Heights Renaissance. So I'll pass it back to Sharice. It's a pleasure to be sharing with you guys.
So I will start off by giving a little bit of a history of who M&T Bank, who we are. If you don't know, we are headquartered in Buffalo, New York. We have been around for around 165 years. We've been in this market a little over 18 years, but we serve New York, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Connecticut, Virginia, and West Virginia, and Washington, D.C. We are so excited to be known as a bank for communities. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what that really means. So M&T, again, looks at itself as a community bank. We want to be a bank for all communities, and that means all diverse neighborhoods. Our goal is to understand the unique needs and challenges and opportunities in our communities so that we can show up in a way that people will feel that they are heard. We are a community bank that seeks to understand all structural challenges that many communities may have, and have an understanding of our customers. We want to have an understanding of our customers and communities so we can help better help them with banking solutions. Next slide. So in Baltimore, again, we are committed to diverse communities, not just African Americans, but we want to make sure that we are helping those growing immigrants, refugees, and LAP citizens with limited English proficiency. In 2019, we launched our multicultural banking segment to more effectively respond to customer needs and become more agile in adapting to the preferences of specific communities and individuals. We're also engaging in many conversations with HBCUs like Coppin, State, and Bowie to ensure that we are present in their community and are looking to give students greater access to financial literacy education. Next slide. As I said earlier, we're committed to our employees in all of diverse communities. So we have a diversity council that has a number of resource groups that all of our employees get an opportunity to participate in. And you can see the different resource groups that are represented within the company. Next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, M&T came to Baltimore in 2003. It was they acquired All First Financial and which was the successor of First National Bank of Maryland. They came into the market with a agenda. They wanted to strive to maintain the essential values of a community bank that tend to be exemplified by familiar smaller institutions. We're committed to being the bank of choice for the city residents, the employer of choice of its talented workforce, and recognized as a leader among those in the community. And in this slide, you'll see a statement that was made by our chairman and CEO, Renee Jones, just basically saying that he rallies around us being committed to missions of being the bank of choice for our city residents, the employer of choice, and the leader in the community. Next slide. You can go on to the next slide. So because we are really passionate about small businesses also, we're in June of 2019, we launched a business banking team focused on women and minority businesses in order to better serve over 564,000 small businesses classified as minority-owned businesses in the Mid-Atlantic region. We align with the bank's community reinvestment group, charitable marketing, and government banking groups in order to make sure that we are assisting all small businesses. We work with the bank's supplier diversity team to enhance the current programs and sponsor and host the WBE and MBE focused events with education and networking opportunities. Next slide. So earlier last year, in the beginning of COVID, I was very instrumental in working with my colleagues to figure out how we could show up different in Baltimore City. Being a Baltimore City resident, I know exactly what the greatest needs are because I'm out and about in these communities all the time. I work with many nonprofits, and we're talking all the time about what the greatest needs are. But what I was hearing is that M&T is not present in certain neighborhoods. And we don't even know you all are supporting our communities, especially because we don't see branches. And the only thing they see is our name across the state on the stadium. So I worked very closely with my colleagues to host focus groups with consumers, small businesses, and nonprofits to identify how we can show up better in the community. And with that, there was a lot of honesty, which I'm glad that happened. But it allowed us to show up and say, hey, we need to put together some objectives so that we can show up differently, we need to create a consistent and positive experience for all of our customers, not just the ones who have a branch in their neighborhood. We want to become a financial advisor and training center. And we want to be the bank of choice for Baltimore City residents. The research was amazing, and our CEO said we need to show up differently. And he agreed with us, and we said we were going to focus in the West Baltimore neighborhoods. Next slide. We also believe in uplifting our communities by providing investments in communities. So we support the local nonprofits that are doing the work that we can't necessarily do. So we strive to strengthen our communities by providing support for a diverse range of civic, cultural, health, and human service organizations through grants through our charitable foundation. And what you'll see on your screen is a little percentage of how we have delivered on our giving. Next slide. Again, uplifting our communities is important to us, and it's so important to us being a community bank. Our CEO has granted all employees 40 hours of paid time off to volunteer in the community. So that can be going to going to a food bank, going to a farm and helping, or teaching financial education, or just doing whatever we feel is best to support communities. And these are some of the organizations that we currently support. Next slide. Next slide. During COVID, we have really supported so many different organizations, but we also saw that the great need was the food insecurity and the digital divide. But food insecurity was big for us. So we made a very large donation to the Maryland Food Bank to help with virtual food, but also help those families who were experiencing food insecurity. We are continuing to do that even with COVID still being present. And we support many Ys of Central Maryland and different schools and state and local nonprofits, and helping them while they're being in the midst of being impacted by the pandemic. Next slide. So years ago, M&T decided that we need to, again, show up differently, and we need to provide access to financial services to all communities, especially those underserved communities. And so we identified that financial education was a big piece of that. And so we have purchased our own financial education platform for ages 16 and up. And this platform is available to all communities, and we have employees that go out and teach these educational class topics, whether it's budgeting, credit, basic banking, but it also is a tool that we have on our website where people can go in and do their own financial education topic, going through the topics on their own. And I'll just also mention all of these services are free. We support, as I mentioned earlier, we support small businesses, and M&T was the Baltimore region's top small business SBA lender for the 13th consecutive year in 2020. We really believe in helping small businesses grow and getting them the access to the capital that they need to continue to stay open. You can skip that slide. So thank you for the opportunity tonight. Are there any questions?
We have just a small window of questions. So if there is one burning one, we can answer it now. Others, we would ask that you put in the chat for follow-up. Is there one? Well,
There's
I wanted
one that just says she wanted the email address to be put in the chat. So her contact information, Sharice, in the chat would be good.
Thank you, Yolanda. And thank you again, Sharice and Tim, for the community engagement efforts of M&T Bank. Thank you for being here tonight and sharing those resources of support that we all want to know more about. We're grateful for your service. Before moving on in the agenda, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that Councilwoman Middleton has joined us, and we're happy and delighted that she can spend time with us this evening. Good evening, Councilwoman.
Good evening. Thank you for that. Thank you for recognizing me. And
Yes.
I'm just kind of sitting back and listening this evening.
Yes.
So always glad to be a part of the community. Thank you.
You're welcome. So our next guest speaker will be Dana Henson and Catherine Fennell, our partners in the work that's happening on the 17 acres. They are bringing updates. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening, Park Heights. Thank you, Yolanda and Park Heights Renaissance, for inviting us to present this evening. My name is Dana Henson, and I'm with the Henson Development Company, and I am a proud 21215 resident. I'm hoping I am joining you this evening with you all well and in good spirits. It has been some time since we last spoke regarding our development. Just to bring everybody up to date, in 2019, the Henson Development Company and our partners, the NHP Foundation, were selected to develop the cleared 17-acre site between Woodland and Virginia Avenues. We're excited that this project will bring new housing opportunities to this area, including a mix of housing types. To accomplish this type of redevelopment, you need a great team, and we are happy that we have the best. Next slide. I've already mentioned our development partners, the NHP Foundation, and Catherine Fennell and Mansour Abdul Malik from NHP are on tonight to present as well. Our other partners bring years of experience in community redevelopment and will make sure that this revitalization effort brings new buildings and for sale homes, but also employment opportunities. Southway Builders will make sure that construction jobs are available and hold job fairs before we start. And we have Marienberg Enterprises to assist with homeownership readiness resources, and we'll also be working with Park Heights Renaissance in that effort with the homeownership readiness and training. Next slide. Tonight we'll be focusing on the first phase of this redevelopment, which is the 100-unit senior building. But we will be coming back to keep you up to date on the next building in phase 1, which is the 53-unit multifamily building and the 17 single-family detached for sale homes. The first single-family detached for sale homes in this area in many years. These homes will range from affordable to market rate with the ability to select upgrades. Future phases will include apartments and manor homes. These are apartments and units that look like single-family homes, but actually have rental units inside. We'll also have rental townhomes and more single-family detached for sale homes in the future phases. We're still working on these plans, so many of the numbers may change, but the types of units will remain in the plan. You'll notice some green areas throughout. Landscaping and beautiful green areas will be woven throughout the redevelopment to aid in the beautification of Park Heights. Next slide. I'll now turn it over to Catherine and Mansour to walk you through the details of the senior building at Park Heights.
Thanks, Dana. I don't know if you guys can see me because I have not yet figured out how to turn my picture on, unless you can see me.
We see you, Catherine.
Oh, well, that's great. That's awesome. So as Dana said, we have 17 acres that was awarded back in 2019. It has been a long process and a fruitful process. And phase 1.
Catherine, you put yourself on mute.
Yeah, you're in.
No, I didn't. It said someone else muted me. So I unmuted that. Anyway, phase 1 consists of the senior building, which is the first project in phase 1. It's 100 units of senior housing. The next piece would be the 53-unit multifamily building. And during the construction of both of those will be the 17 single-family for sale detached housing. You can go to the next slide. So you guys able to pull up the video? You can go ahead and start. So this is just designed to give you, based on our design so far, what this looks like. So this is our gateway. This is right on the corner of Virginia and Park Heights Avenue. So this is a potential retail space where the corner cafe is. And we have 2 different tones of brick over the course of the spans of the building. There's our entranceway. The name has not been decided yet. That's just kind of a placeholder. And we have some beautiful bay windows. We've got banding of brick on the bottom. We've got door yards for the base level people that can, walk straight into their front door, and a very prominent corner like that, which looks great. And as you go around the side and you're coming around to the back, you'll see decks on certain units, trying to make this look as much like a very market rate development. And here's some parking in the back. As we come around, we're coming into what we call the senior green, which is a place for the seniors to congregate, do some, can you pause it for 1 sec? I don't know if you, okay. Anyway, there's vegetable beds, etc. right there. Seniors to get involved in some cooking. And this is just designed to give you kind of an overview of what the building looks like. And you can just go on through to the end. And none of the things like ice cream and sandwiches like are defined yet because we haven't figured out what we're doing with the retail yet. We're gonna wait until a little bit later, but this was just kind of giving you an upfront look. And you can go to the next slide. So this is actually, the next several slides are just walking through part of what you just saw, just different views. So this is on the corner of Woodland and Virginia. And I just think it looks great. I think our architect, Torty Gals, has done a great job. You go to the next slide. And again, I'm not sure how we put this together just to kind of show. So if you didn't catch like a lot of this on the video piece, just re-showing you what it looks like. So this is the backside. This is a brand new alley, and behind that will be the first 17 homes looking forward towards that. And Mansour and Dana, feel free to jump in, you know, at any time. But go ahead, next slide. So this is like, if you're looking down from heaven onto the Park Heights Senior Building, this up on top to the right is the community plaza. That's the gateway coming into the building. On the bottom rear here is the senior green. Just giving you an idea of kind of the length of the building and what that looks like. You can go next. So, and this is just an outlier of the first floor, just to give you an idea of how the units look. So the units are about 850 square feet because 90 of the 100 units in the senior building are 1 bedrooms, and they're about 850, I think they're 850 square feet. This unit 2C at the corner is the one that we've shown you that picture of. That's a bit larger because it's 2 bedroom. But if you go to the next slide, we can talk to you about that. Okay, so off to the left is the units, off to the right is the lobby. So Mansour, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the lobby and
yeah, sure. First,
all the
thank
work
you.
that we've done on that.
Yeah, first, thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to be able to present, you know, where we've come so far. The lobby space in particular, the goal is for it to really be highly amenitized, and it includes spaces like exercise room as well as yoga rooms, of which they're able to open up to the senior green in order for the older residents to be able to take advantage of that green area that's in the rear. There's a library and computer space. Also within that space, there is a resident services office, of which the residents of both the senior and the multifamily building will be able to have access to the resident services that will be provided to the building. The goal was for us to make sure that we provided many of the same amenities, whether that be finishes, whether that be common spaces, etc., that would be similar to a market rate property. So despite any type of affordability mixture that will be here, there will still be a high level of design and a high level of building that will be here that will really set the tone for the rest of the neighborhood moving forward. And you can move to the next slide.
And so again, this is just another look at the corner of Virginia and Park Heights, and how we decided that it really had to be an interesting gateway feature, basically. And so we have STV as our civil engineer, but they're also our landscape engineer. And so they have designed a beautiful, I don't know, for lack of a better word, community plaza with much green and trees and benches. So there's gathering places and it just feels warm and acceptable. So next slide.
I want to take a moment to say thank you to Dana, to Catherine, and to Mansour. We've come to the time for the presentation. Thank you for sharing this update with us and the community. And I'm sure that there will be lots of questions of inquiry as you really sparked an interest, particularly with the visual effects of where things are going and what we can anticipate in terms of what it looks like.
Deidre, can I just mention one?
Deidre, can I,
Just to answer one question, there's 100, someone
Yes.
asked how many units, it's 100 units, but I just want to, so we will be having some traffic pattern changes. There'll be some, which we skipped over, but I think it's very important for the community to know that we are looking to address some of the dumping that's taking place in the area. We partner with Park Heights Renaissance, and they're doing an amazing job with maintaining the grounds of the 17 acres. Yes, right there, the site maintenance. You'll see some Jersey walls going up as well as some fencing of the site. We'll also be putting up a sign that actually shows you the location of all of the different elements that are going to be coming online. So the first slide that we showed that shows the overall redevelopment, that will be on a board on the corner of the site where there's some existing plant beds. So I just wanted you guys to know that in the future, if you kind of want to refamiliarize yourself with the development that's coming, there will be a sign that will be put up in the next 2 weeks to show you. And again, thank you so much for your time. Catherine Manser and myself are looking forward to working with the community, including working with them on the naming of the building and other creative partnerships with Park Heights Renaissance for interim uses and activities at the site. Thank
Right,
you.
and one last thing before you shut us off and cut me off.
We're cut.
Is Mansour, do you want to talk really quickly about the Jersey wall? So when we were selected for this, a big part of this was how are you going to do site maintenance? And we in partnership with PHR have really put a huge effort into keeping the grass cut and doing all this stuff. But the one thing that's a huge issue is the dumping. And Mansour and Gabby have been instrumental in putting together a plan for trying to, if not eliminate, at least severely reduce. So Mansour, I didn't know if you want to, can you give him like 30 seconds to speak to that?
30 seconds,
I mean,
Mansour.
Yeah,
30 seconds, that's it.
we've had a great partnership with PHR to keep the site clean. The Jersey walls, to Dana's point, will be going up shortly. And if there's ever any questions, feel free to please direct those to PHR as well as Dana, Catherine, and myself. And the last thing is, if you see something, say something. We want to make sure that the site stays clean because the rest of the community obviously deserves to be clean. So should this site. So that's all that we ask.
Again,
Thanks.
thank you all for sharing this update with us around the 17 acres.
Deidre, I just wanted to say one thing. I just want to thank the team. We're looking forward to development in Park Heights, and just we often hear that development isn't happening in Park Heights, so we are committed to trying to, at every meeting, to have a development update, because there is a lot of development underway. Much of it is in pre-development stage, but be encouraged that development is happening. There's a lot more that needs to happen. So, just make sure that you are the advocates and the voice for your community. When people say, oh, nothing's happening, there is development happening. We want to make sure that we help build healthy relationships with our developers in Park Heights. So again, we thank the team for coming on board, and we look forward to strengthening that partnership with the community. So thank you, guys.
We appreciate you, Yolanda.
Thanks, Yolanda.
And I'll continue to answer any questions that come into the chat room. So please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Dana.
Mhm.
So as we move forward with the agenda, the next person that we're going to hear from is one of our partners from the National Wildlife Federation. Natalie Cohen has joined us this evening to share with you information about some of the preliminary conversations that PHR and NWF have been having as it relates to opportunities in Park Heights. Good evening, Natalie.
Hi, Ms. Deidre. Hi, PHR community. I'm so happy to be here with you all. I have Miss Lindsay, perfect. Okay. So Thank you for that great introduction. My name is Natalie Cohen. I'm the Senior Conservation Programs Coordinator for the National Wildlife Federation. I've been with NWF for about 2 years now, but I am a proud Baltimore City resident. I'm just on the other side of 83. I live in Hamden, so this work is definitely close to home and to the heart. And so I figured I'd give you a little background on NWF because we are such a large organization, and then segue into some of our combos that we've been having with PHR. So for over 80 years, the National Wildlife Federation has been the US's largest conservation and education organization. Our mission is to unite all Americans to ensure that wildlife thrives in a rapidly changing world. We focus on the coexistence of wildlife and humans, especially in urban environments. You can do next slide, please. So we truly are a federation. So we have 7 regional centers throughout the country. We have our headquarters is in Reston, Virginia. And we also have a national advocacy center in Washington, DC that handles most of our federal policy work. My office is based in Annapolis, though I haven't been there in quite some time. And we truly work as a federation. We have 52 state and territory affiliates throughout the country that make up our board and carry out a lot of our on-the-ground programming. And for Maryland, that affiliate is the National Aquarium, so right in our backyard. Next slide, please. So what drives our work? Research has shown that the Mid-Atlantic is getting hotter and wetter as a result of climate change, and communities with a significant amount of impervious surfaces like roads, sidewalks, and rooftops are particularly vulnerable to extreme heat and flooding. Some parts of Baltimore can be as much as 20 degrees hotter than other neighborhoods. This photo here is from was taken in 2018 on Frederick Avenue inside the Beltway. The same storm that wiped out Old Ellicott City for the second time. You can see the bus is literally floating down the street, and there was 7 feet of flooding. And then more recently, Hurricane Ida that started in the tropics and made its way all the way up to New York and caused tremendous damage in the tornadoes. So that's all just to say that climate change is here, y'all, and it's, you know, we keep talking about in the future, but we're experiencing it right now. Next slide, please. So here we have a map of temperatures of Baltimore. So you can see the dark red is our hottest neighborhoods. This is primarily along Monument Street and that corridor east of Fells Point. And then our blues are our cooler temperatures. And so we know that some neighborhoods, obviously, from this map are hotter than others, and that's mostly due to lack of an urban tree canopy. Park Heights, you guys actually have a pretty great tree canopy, which is awesome. So you can tell that you're not as hotter as like downtown or midtown Baltimore. Next slide, please. So not only are we experiencing impacts of climate change like heating and flooding, but we're also in a climate and biodiversity crisis. This just illustrates the rapid decline of primarily insects, which are at the base of our food chain, and without insects, we will see and experience drastic and dramatic effects on our entire ecosystem. One iconic example of an insect going extinct, unfortunately, is the monarch butterfly, which has seen a population decline of almost 90% over the past 20 years. Next slide, please. So, given the imminent threat of climate change and climate crisis and how that intersects with public health challenges as well, we at NWF in our Mid-Atlantic office have our overarching goal is to support communities' resiliency to climate change. And so we do this through several different ways. creating or restoring wildlife habitats through networks or corridors, and that's the conversation we've been having with PHR, improving water quality and stormwater management, so issues of flooding and poor water quality in the Jones Falls, the harbor, and the Chesapeake Bay, increasing equitable access to green space, which we have found to be even more important in the time of COVID when folks really can't get too far. And so they turn to their neighborhood green space for recreation and to gather and exercise. And then really, I mean, this is kind of a twofold, but to foster long-term relationships with local partners. But I say that in the same breath, we always work with local partners because as a national organization, we can't just helicopter in and drop Pollinator Gardens as easy as that could be. We always work with in partnership with local organizations, whether it's nonprofits, CDCs, schools, houses of worship, or other municipalities. And we always lead with the community's priorities and love to have folks involved during the design and planning sessions, and especially if we're thinking through like larger green space renovation projects. And throughout all of our projects, we always engage in hands-on activities like plantings or cleanups or workshops to educate community members and provide them with the skills and the know-how and the encouragement to be environmental stewards themselves. Next slide, please. So our approach in Baltimore and the Mid-Atlantic, we're really focused on creating urban wildlife corridors for pollinators. So we're talking bees, birds, butterflies, insects of all sorts. That address impacts from climate change like flooding and heat, but also provide co-community benefits like mental and physical health, aesthetics, and other public health connections as well. We've been working in Baltimore for about 10 years now and have led projects in McElderry Park, Reservoir Hill, Druid Heights. We maintain a garden at Camden Yards, and we've worked throughout Southwest Baltimore, pretty much all around Leakin Park on a whole range of projects. Scale of projects vary from like one site and one pollinator garden to a network of 50 sites, for example. So our goal is always to develop something innovative and authentic that can be scaled up throughout a neighborhood or throughout our city, the Mid-Atlantic, or even nationally. Next slide, please. So with all that being said, as we think of creative ways to create and expand and enhance pollinator corridors and wildlife habitats in Baltimore, there are ample opportunities to restore vacant lots as well. Whether it's a small pollinator garden that ranges from 100 square feet to 500, or if it's a massive overhaul of an entire site. As we are all very familiar and aware, there are thousands, like 15,000 vacant lots in Baltimore. And that's not even including like the vacant houses. So there's ample opportunity to restore these sites that oftentimes serve as places for illegal dumping. They're eyesores. People discard their drug paraphernalia there, so they can serve as, you know, public health hazards, and also just that no one really deserves to live next to a dumping site like that. So we find that there's so many co-benefits to vacant lot restoration that goes far beyond just creating wildlife habitat. And so that is what we've been discussing with PHR about maybe installing some pollinator gardens of varying scales on some of the vacant lots throughout your community that are both city owned and privately owned, and also already being maintained by your awesome Clean and Green program. And so then the next slides are just some examples of some work. So this was a double wide vacant lot in Druid Heights on the 2900 block of McCullough Street. We were invited by the CDC there actually to help to fundraise and get the project in the ground. So they had worked with community members and a designer to create an incredible design. Next slide, please. And so then they invited us into their community and we successfully fundraised and were able to install, and this is the same lot from the street. Next slide. A nature play space. So we were able to, a nature play space, I won't get too into because we're tight on time, but it's an alternative play structures and features to your common kaboom, plastic and metal playground. So in the foreground here, you can see there's a hopscotch, there's a stump jump, there's a labyrinth down below. Next slide, please. And this is just, so this is an example of one of our larger scale projects, obviously, but we've graded the site and there's a pathway, there's a rain garden to the left that collects runoff from the surrounding row homes. Next photo, please. And here's a recent photo taken just to show that this project went in the ground in 2019 and so pre-COVID, and despite a lot of maintenance challenges, we've continued to work with the community and the play space continues to look amazing. Next slide, please. So we also work in Philadelphia. We've been working in Philly for about 3 years now to transform a network of 26 vacant lots into 50 pollinator gardens. And we did so with funding from the Wildlife Conservation Society and in partnership with the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society's land care program that is similar to your Clean and Green program, where they just plant trees, maintain it, cut the grass, pick up trash, basic clean and green. And so we wanted to take this already proven model of vacant lot stewardship and take it to a next step by adding wildlife habitat on it. And this is one of my favorite gardens. And then the next slide, please. Here's a before photo. So what I love about the idea of really changing the narrative behind vacant lots is that here we have like this tiny little strip of a triangle in between, you know, at the corner of a pretty busy intersection. And so where this was just grass being mowed, we are able to, in a small area, create a beautiful lot. Next slide, please, which is demonstrated here. And so they're all, you know, totally unique. And we worked with community members to decide which lots they would like to see gardens. And we've COVID threw a big old wrench in our plans and we weren't able to do as much community engagement as we would have liked. But these sites can also serve as like outdoor classrooms if there's a school nearby, or a place for young kiddos to run around and see some butterflies. Next slide, please. So maintenance is crucial to the success of any garden. For this project in Philadelphia, we actually paid a professional local landscaping company to maintain all 50 gardens. While this cost a lot of money, those dollars were put directly back into the community and into the neighborhood by employing a local community landscaping company to maintain the site. And we also, there are opportunities to use these gardens as a part of already established clean and green programs and other workforce development initiatives to employ and train residents in all things landscaping, with an emphasis on sustainable gardening practices and use of native plants as opposed to non-natives, or using pesticides or fertilizers, which we know are no good for our world and our biodiversity. And so this was actually, PHS has a roots, their program's called Roots to Reentry, and it works with returning citizens to equip them with the skills and the know-how to get into the landscaping industry. Next slide, please. And so this is, that's all I have for y'all. So this is another garden. So just to show you that they can really look totally different, and all of our gardens are 300 square feet from this project, and we found that that was easy to maintain. And I don't know if Ms. Dedra, if you would like to, we took a tour of the neighborhood a couple weeks ago, and stopped by a couple little tot lots that had existing playgrounds. And so we were talking about creating maybe some nature play elements to complement those playgrounds, or just adding pollinator gardens. And yeah, so we're really excited to be here, and yeah, thank you again. So
thank you as well,
Mhm.
Natalie. We appreciate that presentation and appreciate the work of the National Wildlife Federation, and look forward to opportunities to integrate your
Yes.
work into the community of Park Heights. We're going to be moving forward with our agenda, but before we do that, we're a little bit beyond the halfway mark. So I'm just encouraging everyone to take a moment to shift in your seat, shift in your head, breathe deeply, move the energy a little bit as we continue towards this next leg of the journey. The next portion of our agenda is where we get to highlight some of the work that's happening at Park Heights Renaissance. And this evening, it will be shared through the Division of our Community and Human Services. Updates will come from 2 of our community schools. You will hear next from Arlington Elementary's principal, Emily Hunter, and she will be followed by our community school coordinator, Valencia Hike from Park Heights Academy. So in that order, welcome, ladies.
Hello, how's everyone tonight? Thank you for having us present today. So I am Emily Hunter. I'm the principal at Arlington Elementary School. You can go to the next slide. We are located at 3705 West Rogers Avenue. And we are a Baltimore City public school, a traditional Baltimore City public school, I should say, with servicing grades pre-K to 5th grade. We have a STEAM focus at our school, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math focus. And our goal is for all students to be on green before they leave the 2nd grade, which enables them to be able to read to learn going forward. We also are having a strong emphasis this year on basic arithmetic and making sure we build those foundational skills for learning math, since our students have been in the pandemic and not been in school in person for a year. Next slide. So we have approximately 406 students today. 211 of those are boys, 194 are girls. We have 96 students that are ESOL, which is English as a second language. And 48 of our students currently have IEPs, which are individualized educational plans. So this servicing students with special needs. Next slide. So we do 2 major assessments. We do 3 major assessments really, but we have previously last year done 2, administered 2. The first being iReady. So that's our math diagnostic. And it is given at 2 times a year, beginning of year and end of year. So that's what the BOY and EOI are. And that assessment is administered to our kindergarten to 5th grade students. And so the next slide shows our data from last school year. So if you notice, these are the top K-5 schools with iWriting Math last year. And we are on the list, so we're really happy to have made that list during the pandemic. So there's a couple of things to note on this slide. So the cohort percent on above grade level change. So we increased our on and above students by 7%, and then we decreased our students that were performing 2 grade levels and below by 9%. And so to the far right, you'll see a map with the community conditions index. And if you notice, there are few schools that are in the red, and we're one of the schools in the red that made, you know, I don't want to say high gains, but that made gains during the pandemic in iWriting Math. So if you go to the next slide, our other assessment is DIBELS, which we do 3 times a year. And that assesses phonemic awareness and reading. That's basic sound, letter sound correspondence, rhyming, those kind of things. Like, can kids read? Do they have the skills to understand how to read? And so that assessment is administered to our K to 5th graders. So it starts off with basic things and it builds up as they get older for 5th grade. Next slide shows our data for DIBELS. So we made the list again for reading. So our top, we were one of the top schools in the district for K to 5 DIBELS administration. Increasing our on and above by 11% and decreasing our 2 years below by 6%. And as you see again, 2 other schools were on in the red as well. And the others are outliers. And so we're really pleased to say that we still were able to make high changes during the pandemic. You can go to the next slide. So these are our partnerships. We are fortunate to have quite a few partnerships at the school. Sorry, my dog is barking in the background. We have quite a few partnerships at Arlington that are all aligned to meeting those goals, and in different ways, all sorts of ways. So, you know, working with our bird.
Looks like there's been an interruption of connectivity with Principal Hunter.
To food pantries because we are in a food desert, and so you know, making sure that kids are eating healthy is important. So if you go on to the next slide. Mount Washington Pediatrics, where we've done COVID clinics, vaccinations, we've done immunizations for students, along with quite a few others that are present today. Maryland Legal Aid, Chesapeake Bay Foundation. So those, you know, building that STEAM component. We do a lot of work with other agencies to help our green space be a learning space and kids learn, you know, how the world around them operates. So if you go to the next slide, our final list of partnerships, the Whole Kids Foundation. So we are starting beekeeping and gardening. We've been doing gardening, we're starting beekeeping. Great Kids Farm last year during the pandemic. While kids came back, we had chickens. We were raising chickens in school. We raise trout, we have crabs, we have all kinds of herbs and a beautiful garden happening at the school. So we're doing a lot of work at Arlington. So thank you for the time. If anyone has any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Principal Hunter.
Thank you.
We are preparing for our next presenter. There is a comment in the chat box from Yolanda. Arlington is one of our 21st century schools, and we're proud of their work and partnership to support our students and our families. Thank you again. Valencia, we welcome you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am sharing some updates about Park Heights Academy, formerly Edgecombe Circle Elementary. We went through a transitioning process with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary Middle, and during COVID, that kind of ceased those efforts. And so we've really been working to try to bring both communities together. And in doing so, we allowed the children in the community to vote on the new name of the school, as well as the school mascot and school colors. The community and the children, stakeholders, and staff came up with Park Heights Academy. Our new mascot is the Panthers, and our new school colors are red and black. And our motto is be great, be grateful, be kind. Next slide, please. Thank you. Some other exciting things happening at Edgecombe is the community mural, another effort to bring the community together. This mural was done with the Rec Center in partnership with the James D. Gross Rec Center, in partnership with the community, the Park Lane Neighborhood Association, and mural artist Ianji. And so I went and I polled all of the children who came back to in person and asked them what they wanted to be. And so the mural is named It All Begins with a Dream. And if you look in the bubbles, you'll see what some of the children had listed that they wanted to be when they grow up. And if you notice, our motto is also in the mural, the be great, be grateful, and be kind. And the mural can be found on the side of the James D. Gross Rec Center if you're interested in coming to check it out. Next slide, please. Some other exciting things happening is we have little libraries. So if you see in the top left-hand corner, we installed 3 little libraries, one in the front of the school, one in the back of the school. Where you saw the mural is a playground that was built in partnership with Kaboom Playground, as well as the Ravens Foundation. And so there's also a little library back there and a little library in our outdoor learning space. A grant was written with the sustainability to do a small outdoor learning classroom. And then Heart of America came, and we were one of the schools chosen to receive the honor of having an even bigger space transformed. So with the help of Heart of America and the Ravens Foundation, we received a larger outdoor playground and learning space. So if you look, the bottom left, the bottom right-hand corner is our community garden, our rain buckets, and towards the bottom, we have a Zen garden where kids can go and staff can go to read, just to take a moment, like a little sanctuary. Next slide, please. And then we also had a peace and meditation room installed, as well as some work done to the teacher's lounge and a sensory hallway. So if you look in the first photo on the left-hand side, that's the peace and meditation room. There are yoga mats, there are sensory items, there are reading materials for meditation, water fountain, all different kinds of things to help children in calming, Zen, collecting themselves, anything that just a space for them to utilize in the building if they need to have a moment. So children have really been asking for this room. They love the room. It's been a great addition to the school. In the other photos, you'll notice the new teacher's lounge for the Ravens. Thank Park Heights Academy for our partnership. So we thought that was kind of fun. And then in the top photo, right below the learning space, is the sensory hallway. We have a PAL program for our students who have autism, and they really love the sensory hallway and enjoy taking time out during the day to enjoy the different items that are on the floor as well as on the walls. Next slide, please. No? Should be one more, maybe not. Oh, okay, maybe there's not another one. So yeah, lots of exciting things happening at Park Heights Academy. We are excited to welcome.
Frozen Valencia. Well, what great examples of some of the wonderful work that's happening in the community schools in Park Heights. We're so pleased to be doing this work in partnership, and we look forward to the continued commitment of bringing to our children what they need to ensure their success while they're in school. Thank you both for those presentations. We move forward next to talk about city agency updates and resources. And we'd like to start this segment of the presentation by inviting James Ashford from our planning department and PCDA to share his presentation with us. Good evening, James.
Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing? I appreciate all the inspirational slides and updates. And I was just thrilled to see the mural that was completed at Edgecombe and folks coming together, just showing what can happen with the school, working with the community association, working with stakeholders. And I know it's been a long time coming, and thanks as well to PCDA. I know that was funded through a PCDA grant. And so thank you for your efforts applying and for the award, and certainly shows what's possible as well with PHR's community grants and some of the exciting ideas, as folks come up with for inspiration to really, bring creative ideas to your neighborhood, working with your neighbors and other stakeholders and local schools. So thank you for that, and I look forward to chatting about the planning department. So my name is James Ashford. I'm the Northwest District Planner, and in the planning department, we also help staff the Pimlico Community Development Authority, which is an advisory group to the mayor on the spending plan. But I'll get to that in a second and talk about the planning department first. If you could go to the next slide, please. So here you can see the planning department's mission. If you were to think of different laws that have been passed in the city or in the state or federal laws, and you think about one of the items that really most affects folks in their daily lives would be land use. And when you think about land use, that is also has to do with the built environment, where buildings can sit, what types of uses are involved, how they can sit adjacent to the street, why can't certain skyscrapers be built in one area, and what kind of type of shadow it would cast to, why is one area residential versus not allowing certain residential uses. So land use certainly is a big part of our everyday lives, whether we realize it or not. And so that's certainly one of the big areas of the planning department, and certainly the planning commission. And then also the planning department looks at issues and works with communities in a holistic way. And so I'll go ahead and read the mission statement there. And it's to build Baltimore as a diverse, sustainable, and thriving city of neighborhoods, and as the economic and cultural driver for the region. And because we have a number of divisions, from looking at historic structures and improving permits, to sustainability, to community planners liaisoning with communities and CDCs like Park Heights. Really the goal of the planning department is to look at the city holistically and work what's best for the people, the neighborhoods, the built environment, and really create a thriving, equitable city for everyone. Next slide, please. And so here, have some language, what is in the Baltimore City Charter, and what's tied to the Baltimore City Planning Commission. And so before I get to these three bullets, I just want to share that in some cities, the planning department and zoning are combined. Baltimore City is unique. There's a board of zoning appeals where, when folks ask for a variance, whether it's a something that's beyond what's permitted in the code, such as if a building's allowed to sit 2 feet next to a building, a developer asks for 4, then you'd ask for a variance, and then it would go to the BMZA. And so there is a separate zoning and office from planning, but we also work very closely together. And so here are some of the functions, you know, like I said, as defined in the Baltimore City Charter. The citywide capital budget is done by, we have a planner in the department, her name's Kristen Ahern, and she helps lead that process in terms of the community engagement process and with agencies. And so when you think about, you know, Park Heights has been fortunate to have slots funding in the area, but when you think about citywide funding, where funding comes from for the streets, for recreation centers, for libraries, for other city-owned facilities, there's a capital improvement budget, and so it's certainly been, you know, slim as the revenues and budget has been hurting in Baltimore City, but it's what's developed in an annual and then a multi-year plan by city agencies to help fund improvements to city facilities and also other items, like I said, such as streets. So definitely, if you're interested in getting involved with the CIP, reach out to Kristen, check Planning's website. There have been webinars. She can also answer questions via email. And then you may wonder, you know, we do the process with PCDA, but there's also a process with Planning Commission, with agencies to work out the citywide budget. So please continue to advocate for the communities, continue to advocate for improvements in your community, and work with agencies and elected officials to make your voice heard, because certainly there's limited funding, but this is a citywide pot for things like infrastructure. As the second point on there is the zoning code, which is the regulatory document that determines the use of land and the development of buildings on it. So you'll hear matters from subdivision to land use issues in zoning that go before the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission, all those meetings are public. And so we certainly, you know, welcome feedback if there is something that directly affects residents in the community. Certainly would encourage you to attend and provide comments, whether it's supportive or you have an issue against, and certainly reach out to the appropriate planner prior if it's something to discuss at an upcoming Planning Commission. And then finally, another major item citywide is the city's comprehensive master plan. So this is updated every 10 years after the census. As you know, there's just a census completed, and this is to capture Baltimore's vision for the future. So this is something, you know, we've received, I have sent out emails about this, and we've received lots of great input and volunteers of folks who are interested in committees and serving possibly in advisory roles or as a part of the engagement or as part of the rollout. So certainly you may remember Live, Work, Play in the prior comprehensive master plan. And so this will be an update to that plan. So certainly as folks are interested in getting involved, Alina Brave in our department is taking that information if you are indeed interested in being a part of that process. Go to the next slide, please. And so here, what I've just spoke about in terms of the planning department and the 3 mayoral appointed commissions, which is the Planning Commission. That's a 9-member board dating back to the middle of the 20th century. And as I was sharing, responsible for maintaining land use plans for the city. So if there is like a master plan that is adopted, that gets adopted through Planning Commission. Grateful for Principal Hunter and Jimmy Mitchell and others when the Inspire plan around Arlington was adopted by Planning Commission. There was huge support and great team, great group of folks came out to Planning Commission to support the adoption of the Inspire plan, quarter mile around the 21st Century School, Arlington Elementary. And also Planning Commission was responsible for reviewing amendments to the zoning ordinance. So then there's also the 21-member Sustainability Commission, who oversees the implementation of the Baltimore Sustainability Plan. So if you are interested in getting involved in issues related to sustainability, the environment, affordable housing, and so on. Certainly, we do have a sustainability division in planning. You could inquire more about the commission. And then finally, there's the Baltimore City Commission on Historical and Architectural Preservations. And the goal there is the promotion of culture and economy of Baltimore through preservation of buildings, sites, and neighborhoods. And I'll clarify right now, because I know there may be Park Circle folks on this call, and also others who may have, be aware there is a national designation in Park Circle, historic designation, and there are also local CHAP designations, which have stricter guidelines in terms of like what types of windows you can use, what types of doors, and any exterior improvements would go through CHAP to preserve the historic character of those neighborhoods. So certainly there are resources available, for instance, as well in historic districts to developers in terms of like, freeze. And the historic planners would be very well versed on this, but in terms of, in freezing the assessment, so taxes don't go up on historic renovations to encourage renovations of the property. So I'd certainly encourage, if there is interest in historic areas, to reach out to our planners in the Historic Preservation Division to learn more about that. And it's certainly a big, in Park Circle's case, can certainly can be used to enhance marketing of the neighborhood, and certainly I'm sure a source of pride amongst residents. Next slide, please. And so here you can see, I know many of you may know me, but here are our 7 divisions, in case you haven't met folks from the various divisions, but I shared the Office of Sustainability, which includes, even a food policy division with resident equity food advisors. So again, there are many ways to get involved. There's the food policy and planning, so I jump ahead. We have an equity engagement in communications led by Delegate Stephanie Smith, and a big component of that is the Planning Academy as well. And we have had folks, Park Heights residents, such as Joy Dabney and Sharon Spence, attend the Park Heights Academy. And so we do have graduates from the community, and we certainly encourage folks to attend that to learn about many of the urban issues, pressing urban issues in the community and also citywide, and the tools to address some of this stuff. And so I'm in the Community Planning and Revitalization Division, and so we're slated by geographic area from northwest to southeast to southwest, northeast, etc. There's the Land Use and Urban Design Division. There was the presentation earlier from NHP and Henson, and so they've presented at UDAP, which is a design review panel. And then I'll try to get through here. And so buildings, you go through the design review, then I mentioned historic and architectural preservation or hearings as well. And then the policy data and analysis. If folks have data or mapping requests, any mapping requests, for instance, those are free of charge through the planning division. So I know the person presenting from the National Wildlife Federation showed the heat map of Baltimore. And so there, indeed, if there are interested in data or mapping requests, we have an email on our mapping and data page where you can reach out to our mapping team if there are certain requests, or you have specific questions about data, and we can get that answered. And then for larger printed maps, those can be printed, but there is a cost associated with that. And our community, our CIP, our capital improvement planner, is also housed in that division. So I know that's a lot, but this information is available on our website as well. Yes, I can put that information in the chat. I'll do that right after the presentation. Thank you. And so here is information. It's planning's general website. I know you kind of have to go to the side tabs to see some of the information I've talked about, but you'll find information on the divisions, the community association directory. I'll talk on the next slide. Talked about maps and data. Please sign up for our newsletter. That is a monthly newsletter, and certainly if there are things to highlight relevant to Park Heights or community planning or neighborhood projects or PHR, you could certainly we could put in a request to the director to get those included in the newsletter. There's the Planning Academy, and then if I haven't exhausted you, there's the Pimlico Community Development Authority. Which is staffed by the director of planning, was per the legislation that was passed decades ago. And here are some other examples, like the Inspire program. And here are some ideas I shared on the right that have been the inspiration for the Planning Academy. And here's some of the main numbers at planning. And then on the bottom right, there's also a specific email for PCDA. And then when I'm finished, I'll put the link directly to the mapping website in the email. Next slide, please. And so for a while, planning has had, well, to be completely honest, sort of an outdated community association directory. And this was the chance to modernize our community association directory, where a variety of association types, Merchants Association, CDCs, and so on, can put their information in here, contact information, keep it updated, boundaries, emails, so if there are any boundary changes, telephone numbers, etc. And this is searchable citywide. So if you move into a neighborhood, or if I were to move into Lucille Park, and the Lucille Park leader has put the community association information, I wonder who's the community leader in Lucille Park. I could look up that person's information, either send them an email or phone number, whatever was in here, and then I can reach out to them immediately if I were a new resident in that community. Alternatively, you may be searching for associations in other parts of the city and wonder who the leader is. And if they've put their information in here, it'll be in the directory, and then they'll be contacted on an annual basis for updates. So please try to get this information in by September 30th. That's the planning department. We're trying to shoot to get all information in by then. And that way you'll be official in the directory. And folks called me for things like, hey, how do we get in the directory? We're trying to do a roll-off, or agencies like DPW will verify community information in the community association directory to make sure it's legit, and then we'll can proceed with things like roll-offs and stuff like that. And there's the website there.
Well, here's the hardest part of a meeting host's job, and that is to cut off the time of a presenter. So keeping in mind that we have several items left to go, I want to stop you here and say thank you so much, James, for presenting the information you shared with us tonight. I want to encourage our attendees to make use of that community directory portal that you shared, and to reach out directly if there are any follow-up questions that they may have to gain more information from you and the work that you're doing on behalf of the Park Heights community in Baltimore City. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Dedra. And I want to let you go, but I also want to thank PHR and the folks of Park Heights. I do have to announce that next week, Friday, is my last day with the planning department. I'll be sending out an email letting folks know I've accepted another opportunity at HUD, but I'm so very grateful for each and every person I've worked with and all the great work, and look forward to continuing to hear about it. So thank you. Like I said, I'll be sending out an email, but just wanted to share that. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you again, James. We're wishing you well.
Appreciate it.
We'll put you on the volunteered list so you can't get rid of us.
Right on. No. So thank you.
Congratulations, though. We'll miss you.
Oh, same here. Same here. Thank you very much, Yolanda.
So I'd like to take this time now to ask if there are any staff members representing legislators that need to give updates.
Hello, this is I'll be quick and I'm mindful of time. Hi everyone. Let me just get the camera's being a little weird. This is Rebecca Mark with Mayor Brandon Scott's office. I'm the neighborhood liaison for districts 5 and 6. And wow, James Ashford, we need to give Mr. Ashford all of his flowers for all of that partnership and all that. And
Looks like you've muted yourself, Rebecca.
oh, excuse me. I don't know where I was, but I was saying we need to give Mr. Ashford all his flowers. And I will post, for the sake of time, I'll post some of the just smaller updates and everything in the chat as links, if that is all right with folks. There is,
Absolutely.
and that's the main part. I'll put my contact information in the chat, and we can go into it more in detail later. And there's been other updates I've heard, but we are here to help folks with homeowner tax credits and renter and support for renters. I know that folks are concerned about upcoming evictions October 1st and everything like that. And there's a lot of resources coming out of the city to direct folks to resources. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any other legislative representatives who need to offer updates or bring remarks? So now we come to the portion of the agenda where we get to hear community updates from you. We get to hear about events and shout outs that you'd like to share across this medium with those of us in attendance and those who may even be absent, but who are in the trenches doing the work and making a difference. Are there shout outs that anyone would like to share?
I would just like to do a shout out to you and to Yolanda and the entire staff. You're doing an awesome job. Each time we come on, my goodness, it's just amazing what is happening. So I would like to do that. And as always, you get my email, so you're welcome to come on Wednesdays and just let me know if there's anything we can do.
Thank you so much, Miss Betsy. We appreciate that. Likewise, we appreciate your partnership and support and all the work you do.
Thank you.
And we are holding up the banner of using older Americans as opposed to seniors. Thank you for that continued advocacy. Are there other community event announcements or shout outs that anyone would like to share?
This is Rebecca again. I will say that we have rescheduled the back to school fairs between that were set up with Mayor Scott and the Baltimore City Public Schools. And that's very exciting. There was a rain delay, but we're still in the back to school season. And there will be one, they're for everyone in the city. I don't know if folks had a chance to go to the ones that did happen, but they're, like I said, they're citywide, but also certain focus on different neighborhoods and everything. And so there will be one at Druid Hill Park on Thursday, September 30th from 3:30 to 8. And I'll be posting that, but that's just something to look forward to. We've got a month full of stuff.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Dedra, I'd just like to give a shout out to all of the PHR staff and the PHR board members, particularly our Community and Human Services Committee, our sponsors and donors that help put together a great back to school end of summer bash last weekend. Want to give big shouts out to Ms. DeBoer, who also heads up our Community and Human Services division. We had some great music, great networking in the community. We highlighted the 17 acres and really showed the opportunity to do more at that site to bring the community together. So thank you all. I had a good time. It was good music and good to see many people in the community and a lot of the service providers doing great work in partnership in Park Heights, including now Eni Pratt Library, 92Q, and many others that we all have here tonight. But there were a lot of other organizations outside of our community that came to support and strengthen partnerships. So great job. We look forward to all the other events. Wanted to just give a shout out over the last week of one of the major events that happened.
Thank you for that, Yolanda. Anything from anyone else? As we move towards the close of the meeting, I just want to say in your hearing to save the date. We will come home together again for this very purpose on Thursday, October the 14th. We hope to see you and we encourage you to bring a friend. Tell somebody else about the good news that's happening in Park Heights and let them know this is a space that everyone is welcome. I want to encourage you to continue to do the important work that you're doing every day on behalf of each one of us as members, residents, constituents, stakeholders in the Park Heights community. Even if the work is gone unnoticed or unseen, we appreciate every effort on behalf of every individual of not only Park Heights, but of Baltimore City. We are the ones who are going to help move the needle on the needs of support that we have as a community. And we're grateful to be able to do this work in partnership with each of you for the residents of this community. I want to encourage you to be safe, to stay well, and that we should all look after each other as we look after ourselves. Have a great night and ease your way into a restful night. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you all very soon. Bye, everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Right.
Good night.
Lindsay, stay on. Okay. I think we'll end this and then just jump on something else.
As we move towards debriefing from this evening's meeting, I want to say great job, team. We will continue the discussion on a separate platform. Thank you for the work that you've contributed to tonight's meeting. See you all soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Stop the recording.